Alright, so as you can see, we are a Group B champion, and we went 3-0, as you can see from the replays here, going up against Portalcraft, Abysscraft, and Runecraft. So let's go ahead and take a look at these replays. There is a lot of technical, I guess you could say, nuance to some of these plays and decisions, so I'm going to try my best to discuss them for you guys to hopefully walk you through the thought process and maybe make you a better player, or make me a better player by understanding what I did right and wrong. So here, I mulligan aggressively, some Phil Dows and my 3-drop in the Detective, and I get a really bad hand with an Olivia and a Warrior of the Deep. The deck profile, which is likely at the end of the video here, I'll explain it, but there is no ramp in this deck. It's an aggro-oriented Dragoncraft, so we're right away already in a tough spot. Plus, I've mentioned this before, but Dragoncraft wants to go second, at least I think so, because the extra play point advantage that you get twice and the ability to evo first to push for damage is really, really beneficial. And the Portalcraft player here on turn 1 using their play point likely means they have double Lovestruck Puppeteer, which is insanely strong because basically whatever I develop on 2, they're going to be able to drop double puppets for free to out, and now they have 4 damage pushing next turn. Obviously they developed this on turn 1 so they can push for 2 damage to my face right away. So this is really tough for me. I'm going to have to use the Strike to out the 1 Lovestruck and then drop Phil Dow just as a contest. Do they have a direct answer to this? We'll see, but they dropped the Yudi here and just continue to push for face damage. I don't really have an answer, so I'm going to be forced to use my Mirian early here to boost up Phil Dow and trade out the Yudi. Now I get traded out by a puppet, but I have to do that because I have to slow the opponent down. I'm at 16, so I'm right away in range of getting double Orcust. The question is, does the opponent have it? They're 9 cards into their deck. Puppet Portalcraft lives and dies by drawing multiple Orcust. In this particular matchup though, I will say the Sylvia is probably more important. As long as you can stave off enough pressure and heal, you can definitely survive long enough where I just run out of gas and I probably can't continue to push through your board, because I'm not really contesting your board as much as I'm just, dealing with some current early board states and then pushing for damage, leaving you to develop a wide board, and you'll see that towards the end here. So I need to slow this opponent down, so I'm going to have to use my Evo first as a defensive option, which kind of sucks, but it's what we have to do. It's why Phil Dow and Berserker, Draconic Berserker are in the deck. I also drop the Ava, Windrider, to also push for an extra 2 points of damage. The opponent gets insane value off that Divine Thunder and the Enhanced Puppet to clear my board, but they have nothing left. A really nice top deck here in Forte. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, if they have a Sylvia, this completely counteracts and nullifies the advantage I gain off of a Forte here, simply because Sylvia comes in, as you can see here, heals for 4, go back up to 12, Evo it, and hit and just basically destroy, right, my Forte. The Intimidate ability against Puppet is extremely strong because obviously none of the puppets can challenge it, meaning it's not affected by things like Bane and whatnot. The only card that really answers it, if they're not on the artifacts, is really just Sylvia. Like, I don't think there's much else. Like, the Puppet version doesn't play the bullet or anything like that. So aside from Sylvia, I can't really think of anything that answers the Forte. I mean, Divine Thunder could technically, but that's usually just a one of anyways. So yeah, the Sylvia here kind of cooks me. I dropped the Dragon Slayer to out it, and at this point I'm expecting the Orcust because it was basically their turn 8 with the play point. They don't have an Orcust, 27 cards left in their deck, only 13 cards deep, so pretty good odds that they don't have it, or at least don't have 2. But they go a little bit wide here, and at this point I have to really make a very important decision. I opt to drop Olivia, knowing full well that I may not super evolve, because I need to counteract and push for damage, right? They're at 12. The Warrior of the Deep can deal 6 to them directly if I can get them to 6 or below, and I only need to deal 6 damage, and Forte here can deal that 6 damage or more. The only thing that they can really put in to heal is the Sylvia. The Yudi healing for 1 doesn't really impact me here. But yeah, the Olivia comes in, and I'm going to be able to drop Ruby along with it, put back the Draconic Berserker, which is dicey, but every other card here is pretty valuable. I draw into the card I put back, which happens quite often with Ruby, and this is actually not the worst. I'd actually prefer not to put anything back with the Ruby, or I should have probably put back the Mirian, but this is important because I'm at 16. The opponent can push for 5 damage, put me to 11, which puts me very close to Orcust range, right? Orcust deals 8, and if they have another puppet, an enhanced puppet, they can put me down to, or they can deal as much as 11 damage to me directly. The Draconic Berserker on the Ultra or Super Evolution will deal the 4 damage to all followers, which means it clears off all of their X and 4 or lower characters, which in this case right now is these two and whatever other low-cost characters they may develop. They're going to go ahead and drop Puppet Shield, which is going to give them 2 enhanced puppets. That clears off one of my characters, and then with the regular puppet, they're going to finish off my Olivia here. They're down to just 3 cards after they Ruby. Again, sifting for that Orcust, but right now, in my opinion, the Sylvia is the thing that can win them the game, not even Orcust, because yes, this board here, they don't end up pushing damage or all that much. I'm at 11 now. So I went from 16 to 11, I think, there. So yeah, they did hit me for 5. But right now, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage. Super Evo puts them to 10 points of damage. So I'll be down to 1, right? If they drop an Orcust, or if they have the Orcust, right, their board is clogged up currently. They'll lose this amulet at the start of their turn, and then they'll lose the puppet at the end of my turn. So they'll have 2 free spots open. If they have Orcust, they drop Orcust. The Lloyd gives them the extra point of damage that they need. Or if they develop Sylvia, it'll heal them so that this Forte that I'm about to drop doesn't end up, again, mattering. Well, it does matter, but like it gets countered by the Sylvia. So I take the risk, and I'm like, this is really my only win condition. I've been behind this whole game. I go for the Forte, and I'm just like, hopefully you don't have Sylvia again, or an Orcust, right? And I push them down to 4 damage. They draw. I know they have a puppet in hand. Did they draw the Orcust for game or a Sylvia to survive? Even if they drop Sylvia and evolve it, they'll go to 8, which puts them out of Warrior of the Deep range. But I'll be on 10. I mean, if I top deck another Forte, that's game. But actually, no, it's not. Sorry, it would only be for 6 damage because, yeah, they wouldn't be at 10. They'd be at 8. So yeah, Forte off the top with the Super Evo would be game. But the Draconic Berserker Super Evolving here would wipe the board at least and then challenge into the Sylvia. The issue is I still lose to, well, at this point, I would lose to the Crazed Creator, the Liam, the Orcust, and Sylvia would be a tough thing to come back from. They don't have the Orcust, and so they drop the Dirk instead, and because of that, I'm able to, very luckily, drop the Warrior of the Deep to take that game. Hopefully you understand what I was explaining there, but I had to take the risk. If they had the Orcust, I lose. If they had the Liam to evolve it to make the puppet have ward and deal the extra damage, I lose. If they don't have those 2 cards, the Sylvia can help them from getting gamed, but again, they need to see some of the other cards to actually pressure and win the game. I did have a board clear in my hand, so I could have survived another turn, but I get a little bit lucky that one and pull out the game against Portal. All right, next up, we've got the Abysscraft, which in my opinion can be kind of tricky to play against. Good players who know what they're doing make the deck very, very hard to contest. So this one is a Sapphire group person, so likely know what they're doing with the deck. Here, our opening hand, we're of course going to mulligan away those high cost cards. We're going to keep the Forte, and we do see the Fan on turn 1, which is great. Once again, going first, not what we want to do, but at least we have the Fan this time around. What is the opponent going to do on their first turn? They use their play point right away and develop the Ward Hellhound Blader, so they know right away they want to defend, which is what you have to do against aggro Dragoncraft, which is pretty obvious I'm playing since I am playing Fan. On 2, I'm going to develop the Phil Dow, just so I can deal with this warded character here. No point in putting up the Dragon Nanny here because it just gets traded out for free into the Hellhound Blader. But I'm going to keep this because this card does have good value with the Fire Drake Whelp here. We, on 3, are able to develop the Odahime's Bodyguard. This will force the opponent to trade into this instead of pushing face. They not waste, but they use a 3-cost Shadows in order to get the double Ghost to out the 2-cost character there, which is, the Odahime Bodyguard, 3-cost character, I guess you can technically say. But this puts me in a good spot because now this Dragon Nanny will trade into the Mino, so they have to answer this. I get the Intimidate character, on board, that they basically need the legendary Igavri or something like that, or the 1-cost removal spell to out this. And then I also have a Phil Dow, so they really got to pick and choose, and now I kind of have tempo from them, despite them using that play point to kind of gain a little bit of an advantage at the start. Not nearly in a bad position as I was against the Portal matchup in game 1. So yeah, they're going to use Shadows to get the double Ghost. That takes care of the Nanny, and then their Mino actually trade into my Phil Dow, hit me down to 15 with the second Ghost, and then develop a Skeleton with 4 cards in hand. We're going to take a turn off to draw 2 with the Gold Note, and then strike away the Skeleton, evolve the Fire Drake, because I have Tempo now again, and going to be able to push for 3 damage. The opponent here on 5 play points is going to develop that legendary Aragavi Eternal Hunter. I'm just going to call him the Eternal Hunter. That clears off the Fire Drake wall, which isn't great because one of their only ways to deal with that Intimidate character. But we're going to develop the Fledgling Dragon Slayer to out it, and again put the opponent on, you know, let's see what you want to develop, because I'll try to play around it the best I can. They're still a turn away from using the play point to get the Cerberus online, and when the Cerberus comes down, I want to make sure I don't have a character that they can interact with. So this is a really cool breakpoint here that I was playing towards. On 7, when I hit Overflow, I actually have enough to strike away the Blue Maiden for 4 damage, and then drop Forte, Super Evolve it, hit for 8, bring them down to 9, and then again, they need the Agravy or whatever, the Eternal Hunter, or the 1-cost removal spell in order to out this Forte. Do they have it? No, they don't. They realize there's nothing they can do because I have the Fan, which is going to give me the extra 2 damage, if not more, because of the Evos, and they just have no way to contest the Forte with the oncoming Bodyguard next turn. Likely going for a Cerberus play that turn, but nothing to interact with the Cerberus, meaning we take that one pretty easily. Alright, the final game is a Runecraft matchup here. Now this one is pretty interesting. Another Sapphire grouped player. You know, Runecraft is a deck I think that the aggro Dragoncraft deck can do pretty well against, simply because again they have limited outs and you can kind of force their plays a little bit, and I'll explain where. But in the deck profile I talk a lot about playing around Anangrea in this matchup because it is really important. But let's kind of go ahead and see what happens. For the third matchup, we go first again, and I was like, man, I can't catch a break. I just want to go second. We draw the Fan on turn 2, so our entire curve is messed up. We're going to drop Ruby on 2, though, put back the Warrior of the Deep, because again, very far away from getting that off. They're going to go ahead on turn 2, saving their play point here, going for the Miss Miranda. I'm going to go ahead and strike away the Miss Miranda since I got another 2-drop that I can deploy. No sense in deploying the Fan with nothing to do with it. I can always develop it next turn and then use it if I wanted to, but they do have a second Miss Miranda, which is really good. I basically have to trade into that Miss Miranda because next turn they're going to get Evo first, and if they Evo that Miss Miranda, they deal 3 damage. It's a 4/4. They trade out with my other character. So the Miss Miranda goes 2 for 1 on the Evo point, and I can't let them do that. So I have to trade the Ruby into it, and that's fine because I still can pressure with the Phil Dow. We end up taking a turn off air quotes to draw cards, I think there. I think that's what I did. Yeah, played Gold Note Melody and then played the Fan with the extra with the last play point, which does make sense. We draw into another Gold Note, but I'm not sure if we'll play this one or not. And with the Aepha in my hand here, I'm basically playing towards the Intimidate ability. So I'm 3 turns away, and I want to find a Mirian because my goal is drop this Wind Rider. It's a 2/1. Evolve it, it becomes a 4/1, drop Mirian, right, because I can drop this on for 3 and Mirian for 4 for a total of 7, which is exactly when I hit Overflow, and then Mirian boosts us up to a 7/4, and then it can hit, or 7/5, sorry, with the Evo, and then it can hit directly, which will do a ton of damage. So they're going to go ahead and continue to draw, and I'm like, yep, perfect. They drop on Miss Miranda and don't get the 2 for 1. Why I made these plays and took that turn off to draw cards with the Gold Note Melody is because with the play point, they can opt to go for Anangrea, right? Anangrea can out up to 3 bodies on curve, and I don't want to play multiple characters out just to get wiped out by the Anangrea. So by developing the Phil Dow and drawing cards and then developing the Fan, it doesn't make any sense for them to deploy the Anangrea here, right? And the longer they wait with the Anangrea, I'm keeping them off spell boosts, I'm keeping them off developing like Blaze Destroyers and stuff earlier on, and I'm not losing massive card advantage. The Miss Miranda here on the Evo is good for me because it only takes 1 card out. They bought a 4/4 body, but they don't end up contesting anything else on the board. So this is actually pretty good, the fact that they burn their Evo first. I draw, and I do see the Mirian here. I'm just going to go ahead and drop the Fledgling Dragon Slayer, and then just pass turn, saving my Evo point for pushing for damage. They're going to go ahead and Witch's Brew, and then go for Looking Smart, which is going to deal 2 damage to the Dragon Slayer. And again, just drawing cards, not developing any characters. They did see, I think, 3 Miss Mirandas though, which is like the best start Runecraft could possibly have against aggro Dragoncraft, because it's like the only low-cost card you play that's a character, right? Everything else is like really expensive, like Kuans and stuff. But you know, I am expecting Kuans to come in. But what I'm doing here, right, I use Gold Note again to draw 2 cards, and then use the last 3 play points for the turn to develop an Odahime Bodyguard, put my opponent to 14, because the closer I can get them down to like the 12 mark, I can opt to finish them with like Forte and Afa, which is my game plan. So this is looking really good for me here. They're going to go ahead and drop another couple of Foresights, and then Stormy Blast away the Odahime's Bodyguard, and then draw cards with Looking Smart, and I'm like, yeah, this is really good for me. Despite them, you know, sifting through so much of their deck and playing so many cards in that one turn, they end on a Demonic Shikigami, and now I'm in overflow. So down comes the Wind Rider, and then with the 4 remaining points, like I mentioned, gonna come in with the Marion, make this thing a 5/4, and then evolve it to become a 7/6. Or sorry, I think I said 7/5 earlier, but 7/6. Hit directly, bringing them from 14 down to 7 now. They're going to Sage Light, not heal for 4, but instead deal damage to the board, wiping out the Marion and putting the Afa on 2. This is again what the Runecraft players have to do. They need the Stormy Blast with the right amount of boosts, etc., or they have to drop William, right? Which is what I was expecting. I was trying to force them to drop a William here, because that means they don't Kuon, and if they don't Kuon, they don't have the ward character, because they have the William to clear the board, because the Kuon won't clear the Wind Rider, right? And with that, I can then follow through with the Blackwing, Super Evolve it, hit for 8, right? I win the game. They can't heal, drop Kuon, you know, drop William, etc., all in the same turn. They have to choose one of those 3 things. And aside from dropping, yeah, there's nothing here that saves them, right? There's nothing, because if they drop the Sage Light, or I guess now, well, yeah, if they drop Sage Light to heal, yeah, there's nothing they can really do in this situation. So I kind of checkmated them, I think. Let me know if in the comment section, if you made it this far, what the opponent could have done to get out of this situation. Because again, like, they can't heal and defend at the same time. So the Forte here was always going to clean up. Yeah, they couldn't clean up the Afa and protect themselves and play through a potential Forte coming in next turn, which obviously I do have. So just like that, we ended up taking it. And what's funny is, like, Runecraft is the deck I usually want to see with Dragoncraft aggro. And in my run prior to the finals, I think I saw 3 Swordcraft and 2 Portalcraft, and I was like, man, Runecraft is like one of the most popular decks. How did I not see this? But that's kind of why you like the matchup, right? What you just saw there. Very easy, while they're like trying to ramp up and draw a bunch of cards, that you just pushed a lot of damage to face with Storm and set up things the right way to force certain interactions in order to win the game. And then, of course, playing around Ann and Greya, because that's one of the ways they can definitely claw back a ton of advantage and basically just outgrind you. But that was our run, 3-0. Let me know what you think in the comment section below if you made it this far. Thank you for watching. Quantum is out. Put up the QR code for you guys. I did go through a couple iterations of this, and I've been using this one for maybe the past couple days, and it's felt really nice. Turn 1, obviously, you want to see the fan. What's funny is, like, for Dragoncraft, I really prefer going second, and in my 3-0 run, I went first every game, and I was actually getting a little salty by the 3rd game, because I was 2-0, and I was like, surely they'll make me go second now, so I can get the play point advantage. And then I went first for the 3rd time in a row, but we were able to pull it out, and we'll cover those matches. But when you go first, it's actually not so bad because of this card, the fan, and that's why I went on that little rant there. This card is insane. It puts a lot of pressure on your opponent and always gives you the ability to hit for 2 to 4 to 5 to 7 to like a lot of damage, because when you put the Odahime's Bodyguard on board, you know, if you're at 7 play points, you can buff it up with the Marion to make it a 5/5 or even a 4/4 if you're not in overflow. Obviously, you can evolve it, hit for extra damage. There's a lot of unique things you can do to just push extra damage with this card, just getting it set up on turn 1. Hit early for 2, right? Have the Bodyguard on board, force your opponent to trade out. It's really, really strong. 3 filled out. This is probably your most versatile 2-drop because it's acts as a removal, but also as a 2/2 body. The Little Dragon Nanny is definitely really good in some matchups simply because of the Intimidate Fire Drake Whelp that you can get out early, similar to what you do with the Odahime's Bodyguard. This card is an unassuming 1/1, but you buff it up, right? You evolve it, you Marion target it to boost it up, and then you just hit for extra points of damage where you can, because some decks will have a really hard time outing this, or they'll have to use very expensive removal on it. Like, I don't think it was in the run that I did, but somebody once Sylvia evolved to take out this Fire Drake Whelp at a 3/3 because I boosted it up as a 2/2 with the Marion. So yeah, 3 of this. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. I don't really like the Aoife Wind Rider, so I only play 1 copy because I really only ever want to play her when I'm in overflow. And so I don't want to see her on turns 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to see her 7 and above, so only 1 copy. What's funny is I think this card did win me one of my games in the run to 3-0. But when you do get it on board with Storm and Overflow, it's really, really good because the Overflow gives it Intimidate, which is the same as a Fire Drake Whelp. And then I also play 3 Gold Note Melody. I don't think most other builds play this, but you definitely want some turns like, because you're not always going to be the most efficient with like playing out your cards. Like, you're not always going to be like, I want to play a 2-drop and another 2-drop. Like, you want to take a turn off sometimes, and there's actually a really good showcase in the matches where I go up against Runecraft, and I don't want to play into an Anangrea board wipe, so I actually use a turn off to Gold Note Melody, draw extra cards, and set up an Odahime's Fan with only 1 character on board. And I'm like, if you then choose to Anangrea me, you're not getting nearly as much value. And I had the follow-up Fledgling Dragon Slayer, which is another card that you definitely need in this deck. It's just a bronze, because then I can just target the Anangrea, and then you lose the Bodyguard on the following turn. So I just wipe your board, and you just invested your Anangrea removal, which is arguably the best legendary in the game. So there's like little nuances like that that really matter, and I'll point it out when we cover the matchup. In the ramp version, you can argue you don't even play Draconic Berserker, or you play 2 copies of it. In this version, I think you play 3 just because you do really need that constant pressure and removal. And this card is basically a 2-for-1 on curve, right? You evolve it, you deal 4 damage, and then you trade into something. It's basically like a 2-cost more expensive Phil Dao. So you got Phil Dao on 2, you've got Draconic Berserker on 4, and then you've also got Fledgling Dragon Slayer. So you've got the tempo-based removal that leaves you with a body on board that forces your opponent to answer, so you can keep pushing for the storm damage, right? And then Miriam already explained, this card comes out of nowhere, buffs up your things. Like, you know, your opponent thinks they're safe with their 8 life, and then you instantly like drop something, super evolve, drop Miriam, hit for 8, win the game. It's crazy. This card is definitely really, really good. I really like Olivia in this deck because if you do get to the later parts of the game, which does happen, and you're in a bit of a grind fest, this card can instantly turn any of your Intimidate cards into super evolutions, while Olivia will also trade out with a threat on the board. So you drop Olivia, right? You gain 2 cards, which is great for fodder for the fan. You gain life back, and then you super evolve her, and you target the Intimidate character. So either things like where is it? The Fire Drake Whelp, or if you were able to drop in Overflow the 1 Hov Wind Rider, and then you end up super evolving this. So you get a super evolved Storm character in the Wind Rider, you get a super evolved Odahime's Bodyguard, right, which has Storm, or you get a super evolved Fire Drake Whelp. So you get some kind of like really good value off of the super evolution that Olivia tags along with her. And then Olivia herself becomes a 7/7, which likely clears an opponent's threat on the board, while you still have your push for face damage on the other character. That's why I like her a lot in this deck. Plus, the resources and the life gain is really nice. The MVP of the deck, and the only legendary, Forte Blackwing Dragoon. This card is... I love this card, man. This card wins me so many games. I mean, I don't really play that much, but like for what I do play, this card wins me so many games. It comes out of nowhere, you super evolve, it hits for 8, your opponent has to answer it, and if they don't, they just scoop. Simple as that. Pretty awesome. And then I wasn't playing this before, but I opted to put 2 in. It's definitely come in clutch a few times, because your opponent, when they're really low on life, they'll start to play a little bit more defensive, and they'll maybe set up some ward stuff, and then you just have this enhancer. You're like, as long as you don't heal up past 6, I'm just going to drop this and win the game, even if you set up an impossible to break board, right, on the follow through, and with ward and everything, you know, like Orc is coming in with the Lloyd and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't care about any of that. Drop the Warrior of the Deep, win the game.